Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today. And though you've come through many obstacles.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my first impressions reaction to Titans. So, this is a series I never really expected to ever check out. Um, I never really was interested in it because I saw like a clip or two and it seems like they were getting so much wrong about these characters. Um, and there were like two main complaints that I had with what I had seen. And what I had seen was very little, mind you, to be fair, but Raven was showing way too much emotion, which literally goes against the point of her character. Yeah, Raven can show some emotion, but if she shows too much emotion, it legitimately is bad. Her powers will go out of whack and stuff. So, like, she can't do that. And the second thing was the entire thing with Robin or Nightwing or whatever you want to call him saying "fuck Batman" and all. And it's just like the tone of everything seemed way too gritty, way too like edgy for the sake of edgy. And DC is that's not what DC is about. That's not what the DC comics, the characters, etc. are about. Yeah, it's dark. Yes, it's a little bit edgy, but it's not just edgy for the sake of edgy. It's always had a point, and it's always had a reason for being edgy, whether as a bit of social commentary or just something that really fits the characters and helps move the stories along, stuff like that. But this just didn't seem like that. But I don't know for sure because again, I'd seen very little. And I mean, it's not the issue that Robin would like get annoyed by Batman and leave him and stuff and even get angry enough to like get physical about it. Like that this has all happened before. It's just how it's handled. Now, what made me decide to check this out is Doom Patrol, actually. Because one, I know that Doom Patrol does have a connection with this series. But more so, Doom Patrol impressed me so much in so many ways that I'm hoping that this series does the same. Because I never expected Doom Patrol to be as good as it was. I never expected that. And I don't know what we're going to have in store really with this. But I'm hoping it ends up the same way, that it ends up being as good as Doom Patrol, if not better. Now, I don't know all the details about this series. All I know is it's a Titans-based series. And I know that the Doom Patrol is involved in an episode. I know that Beast Boy in this world is connected to the Doom Patrol, rather than Cyborg, who's in the Doom Patrol in the actual series. But that's about all I know. Like, I don't know if there's any other members of the Titans that are going to be shown in this outside of like the core group that we know. I don't know if there's going to be any notable villains that I would recognize. I don't know. But I'm interested nonetheless. And I think part of my issues with starting this before and my hesitation to check it out was due to the fact that I did grow up with the cartoon, the original like 2000s Teen Titans cartoon. And because of that, a lot of my knowledge of these characters and a lot of my love of these characters was shaped by that. So I always tend to be really um, hesitant, I guess, just again, to see a different form of them. Like when the uh, DC animated movie universe brought in their Teen Titans with the Teen Titans versus Justice League movie, I was very hesitant about it. I ended up liking them because it's a completely different type of dynamic than the original series went for. Um, and they definitely worked the characters a little differently. But it still felt like these characters. Like Raven showed emotion, but still very subtle, little emotion. And Starfire was just the proper uh I don't know how to put it. It was the proper progression of her character, even though she was much older and more of a leader of the group in that version. And then there were other characters who weren't originally in like the old cartoon, like Blue Beetle. But still, you get the idea. Um, I'm definitely interested to see what this series can do, and I'm really, really hoping that it surprises me and is pretty great. We're doing this as a first impressions because if this is good enough to warrant my interest, why not check it out as a reaction? Um, so we're gonna leave it based on this. If I end up liking it enough, then I'll add it to the schedule. Um, but we'll see. And if you want to see me react to it either way, because you think like, oh, you can't judge it based on this first episode, you got to see more. If you want to see me react to it anyway, either way, and want to make sure I get to it, you can choose it as a donation reward if you want. Um, but that would be completely up to you. And heck, it might not even be necessary if I end up liking it enough anyway. Unless you just want to make sure I get to it quicker, because that is always a way to do so. Donation rewards are more than likely going to be quicker a lot of the time. Not always, but a lot of the time. It just depends on where I'm able to fit it in, basically. But either way, either way, we're just going to get started, hope for the best, and see what this first episode of Titans is like. So let's do this. When the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black, then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode. So, that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So, this was interesting, partially because it just was not pretty much anything like these normal characters. So the main focus of this episode centers around Raven, Rachel Roth. She has her powers inside of her, but doesn't quite know what they are or how to explain them or anything. But they're causing trouble very lightly here and there, and it seems like they have almost a mind of their own and want to be unleashed. One day her mother is murdered in front of her by this guy who seems to know who she is and wants to kidnap her. She manages to knock him out and run away, and ends up going to Detroit, where she eventually comes into contact with Dick Grayson, um, who had moved there from Gotham to kind of pursue his own thing. So, along the way, we also get these bits of Starfire's goings on. She's amnesic at the moment, but apparently had some deals with this, like this gang or something. And at the very end, we see Beast Boy stealing a video game. Okay. So talking about the characters, Dick Grayson is probably the closest to his like typical comic series movie counterpart, whatever iteration you want to go with. But this is very much like Nightwing era Dick Grayson. This is not like Robin era. Which I guess might be the point. Like maybe they're going to transition into Nightwing at some point. But he's very much like trying to forge his own path after having worked with Batman. And even though there's the fuck Batman line and everything that was like with all the advertising and all, it was actually kind of a misleading trailer line, because we find out that this he still admired Batman and everything. It's just he wanted to take his own path. He didn't quite hit his beliefs and ideals and thoughts didn't quite align with Bruce's anymore, and he wanted to do things his way. Though with the way he's doing things, like I said, he kind of seems more like Jason Todd than Dick Grayson. Going a little heavy in the intensity there, dude. Raven is very different from how she's normally portrayed. Because normally Raven can't get super emotional because her powers are tied to her emotions. If she gets too emotional, if she shows too strong of an emotion, no matter what emotion it is, it'll cause her powers to go out of control. So the fact that this Raven in this series is very emotional, and honestly, for what she's going through, like in the context of the series, in the context of this version of the character, yeah, she should be very emotional. Like, honestly, she's going through hell. But in terms of like the character in general, the character of Raven that we all know, it's very different. It seems like her powers do have some tie to her emotions in this version too, but it's not so much that they can go out of control if her emotions do. It seems like more along the lines of like she's an empath whose emotions can influence her powers more so than anything. And then Starfire is very much also different. She's a lot more serious of a character. She's less goofy and everything, less like emotionally naive. And part of that is definitely the fact that she is one of the characters, like with Robin, who is aged up in this. And the characters' ages seem kind of all over the place in comparison to like other versions. Like Raven seems like a teenager, like what, 15 years old. Beast Boy, I believe he's also a teenager. But Robin, Dick, is clearly an adult, like probably mid to late 20s, just based on the information we have. I'd say probably more close to mid 20s, somewhere around 25, 26. And I would honestly say, based off of what we've got, Starfire is probably the oldest. She just seems like the most mature and the most um, well handled, and she's clearly been doing something with this mob for a while, and it's like she just seems like the oldest to me out of this group. Um, but yeah, also her powers are very different. Like she's not using like the star bolts. She's controlling fire, which is not what Starfire ever actually did. Like Starfire never had that power, but okay. Beast Boy seems about the same as Beast Boy always is. Like, yeah, Beast Boy as like this kind of vigilante type character. At the moment, yeah, he would definitely go and steal a video game. Sure, that's a Beast Boy thing to do. Honestly, he seems the most accurate so far, but honestly, we've gotten very little of him. So each of the characters are kind of going through their own things. Dick is trying to make a name for himself, both as a police officer transferred from Gotham and as Robin out in the world. And he's kind of getting two very different reactions in regards to that. Robin is seen as this vigilante who all of Detroit seems to hate. They don't want him there. They don't want masked heroes, vigilantes, villains, any of that kind of stuff. While Dick Grayson is seen as a little bit of a closed person. He's not very disliked, um, and he seems to get along well enough with his coworkers. Um, his entire story in this is definitely about, in this first episode at least, trying to find that just that kind of life and goal for himself. And he gets involved in what's going on with Raven, and by the end is solely devoted to helping her. Raven's entire thing, she's kind of, at least so far, the main character, it seems. And her big thing seems to be just the idea of, well, the idea of identity, of trying to figure out who or what she is, what the deal with her powers are, and where she can belong. Because her mother was killed, but right beforehand, she found out that her mother's not even actually her mother. And so, and then these guys kept trying to kidnap her and eventually succeeded. And this dude is talking about like trying to stop the end times and all. And planning on burning her, or like carving out her heart and burning it alongside the heart of a beast and the heart of a beast. I'm not sure what the other word he said was. It sounded like simpleton, but could that really be what it was? Um, but yeah. So her entire thing is definitely trying to find herself here. Beast Boy, it's way too early to tell. Again, we got very little of him. And Starfire's is definitely about like trying to just figure out what the hell is going on because of her amnesia. She for some reason is looking for Raven as well, but for what reason? Why is she looking for Raven? And why was she working with this mob to help find Raven as well? Why was she like tricking them? She was working with them, but secretly tricking them behind the scenes. And it's like, what is the goal here? Um, we get a few other minor characters in this, such as Dick's new partner at the Detroit PD. Um, None of them really stand out too much, though it definitely was super heavily focused on our main characters. And it was definitely just trying to introduce us to everything kind of going on in this main story for the time being. It's interesting. I will give it that, but I think I can say I don't think that I would want to react to this. I think that we're gonna leave this first impressions reaction as just the first impressions, and I think I'm gonna end up watching this on my own time. Um, I just feel like a lot of the reactions would just be picking apart everything that's different about it, and if I just like if I'm just sitting there watching on my own time, I'll most likely be able to enjoy it a little better. Um, though who knows? Um, if you really want to see me react to it, though, for whatever reason, you can choose it as a donation reward, but that's completely up to you. If you really think I should continue reacting to it, otherwise, I'll probably watch it on my own time, just randomly spread about like I do with shows. But tell me in the comments below, what did you think of this first episode of Titans? And for now, I'm Connie and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.